Hey, you creeps. It's Matt here. I'm just popping in before this episode starts to let you guys know that we had some technical issues with the audio for this episode. Something really weird happened that I don't know what it was, but about halfway in, Eric and I started to sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. It was really, really weird. I couldn't figure out what caused it or how to get it to be normal. I was able to pitch us back down so that we sound relatively normal-ish, but I wasn't able to fix any of these like weird crackly poppy noises that happen when we speak. So we decided we were going back and forth about whether or not we were going to scrap this one, but we decided that there's enough fun in the first hour of the show, which is all of our spoiler-free bit. So we felt that there was enough in here that I think we thought it was worth listening to, that we wanted to save it and send it out to you. So we didn't want to cut it. I hope you'll at least listen to the first hour. No hard feelings if you don't make it to the end. Again, thanks as always for the support you give us just by listening. You're the best Beelzebuds ever. Anyway, let's get the show on the road. Hello, all you creeps, and welcome back to another episode of the Devil's Cut Podcast, your haunted house of a show full of things that go bump in the night. If it's horrifying, horrific, terrifying, or terrific, we're here to talk about it. I'm your host, currently possessed by a devil, Matt Young, and here with me as always is my co-host and best friend, the skeleton everyone should want in their closet,
Eric Rossi.
Hey, Eric, how are we doing today on this one of the final legs of the hot, wet summer?
Great.
It is. I'm feeling great. You
After
know what?
This morning, pretty good.
I think it's all the fresh air because this summer vacation took like a quick jaunt to the German Alps. You know, just a quick. We were in LA. We were at the bottom of the ocean. Somehow we found ourselves smack in the middle of Europe.
The fresh air has done wonders for my sinuses.
Yeah, the altitude is doing something for me.
It's drained out all of the muck and gross stuff we picked up at the bottom of the ocean, so that's nice.
All those deep sea parasites can't handle the oxygen deprivation up here. So today we are talking about another new movie release. So last week, we're hot off of the Shyamalan Face Off. It's been a horror movie extravaganza this summer.
Yes.
So many horror releases.
Yes.
It's wild. I don't remember a summer that's been this crazy. Last summer wasn't like this.
I feel like last year was just
it couldn't have been
full of so much stuff, but
it couldn't have been. Last summer we literally had not much to talk about. We covered 80 Amityville movies.
That's right. That's right. We had so little to talk about. We talked about fucking, what was that, 9 consecutive
Amityville
weeks
movies.
of Amityville movies.
So I don't know if they're always, if they're usually not this busy, but I mean, it's crazy the amount of movies we've had that are also like mostly really good.
Good.
Oh yeah,
That's
you know what?
Right.
Spooky wife comes in with to remind us that there was in fact a strike going on, but there was still movies that were scheduled to come out, from before the strike.
Yeah.
But still, either way.
Everyone's hot off.
This summer certainly made up for it. It has been wild, wet and wild, man. So today we are talking about another new movie. This one is called Cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
It's Cuckoo.
They said it 10 times in the film. We've been pronouncing it wrong for 3 months.
It can't be. You can't have.
Watch them. They did.
You can't have like 2 sounds in a word that sound the same, but using different. Like if it's cuckoo, you use the 2 O's or the 2 U's.
Dog, you are talking to the wrong guy. I've been phonetically misspelling words my entire life.
It just, as a rule of thumb, it should just be that like if your word is cuckoo, then you got to use the same letters for both sounds. You can't be using the U and the two O's.
I would agree with you. Modern language would disagree with you.
Well, all right, cuckoo then. Cuckoo clock, cuckoo bird, whatever. Either way, this movie's cuckoo is what it is.
It's fucking crazy. What a little freak of a film we got.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, for more reasons than one, it kind of reminded me of Hatching.
Okay.
But I honestly, I didn't know what to expect going into the movie. I mean, obviously, I knew there was going to be some sort of avian tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, this was like a confusing summer for me at the beginning because there was so much coming out and a lot of stuff you were really hyped for specifically that I was getting like a bunch of the movies all mixed up in my brain. So for a while, I thought like I had mixed up your like Cuckoo and Longlegs in terms of like what the one that you were really
most
looking forward to.
Yeah.
I thought it was Cuckoo. And then obviously got closer to Longlegs time, and I was like, "Oh, I've totally mixed up all my movies."
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it's because I was really excited about Cuckoo for so long because it got delayed. It was one of those movies that were supposed to be filming during like COVID and the strike, but then because of all of the delays, it got pushed and pushed and pushed. So I've probably brought it up, like 2 years ago, if not earlier.
Yeah. I do remember it being on like your list for like a hot minute. But yeah, so now that I'm like, now that I figured out what movie we were watching, either way, I didn't watch any trailers for it. Just like I didn't watch a trailer. You were like, you kept shoving the Longlegs trailers on me, and I'm like, I don't really want to watch this. I just want it to be fresh because, man, I mean, we talk about it. I don't know how often on the podcast we talk about it, but we talk about it in real life all the time. Like movies these days are just giving it up like for free in the trailer.
Yeah.
Like they're giving up all the good jokes, all the good scenes. I mean, it's been that way forever, but I feel like it's getting egregious.
No, I feel like the two of us have definitely been on that side of the fence as far as like people. There's like a real disconnect between like what a good enticing trailer is versus how you have to market a movie. And I think luckily this time we got a pretty good like in between zone where like I had a fairly good idea of what might happen, and it definitely took a fucking twist from what I expected, but as a whole I think I knew what was coming down.
Yeah, you know what? I guess I don't know if this is. I watched the trailer when we got home after having just seen the movie, and now that I've seen the movie, watching the trailer, I was like, "Wow, this gives away everything." But I guess that's because I saw the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know. It did feel like all of the good stuff in the movie, though, save for like a couple like things, which is all in the trailer. And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm glad I didn't watch it. I'm glad I really didn't know what was happening in this movie. All I knew was that Hunter Schafer was going to get beat up."
And boy, did she.
Well, you know what? I do. You know that I like when a movie is not afraid to beat up its main character.
Yeah, you love seeing the main character get their ass handed to him consistently.
Yeah, well, because it's like then it really.
You got stakes.
Yeah, exactly. Like
stakes.
if your main character just kind of glides through the whole movie unscathed, you're like, well, what was I even worried about? Like, why am I watching this?
Yeah.
So it's good, and it's definitely a more modern thing to like. For horror movies too, to like really, for a long time, in the late 90s, like aughts, like all of our like final girls were real like clean and glistening by the end of the movie. They were like totally fine, and then they'd kill the monster and that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
But we've come back, to like the more like gritty era of like the 80s and the 70s where they were like, yeah, just kick her ass. Like, who cares?
Yeah, make her crawl
dirty
through the mud.
Stuff.
Who gives a shit?
So I'm glad we're finally back there. But yeah, so
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo is so it was originally supposed to come out in 2023. Okay, so originally a 2023 joint, but was delayed. Directed and written by Tillman Singer, who is a German filmmaker. This whole movie actually takes place in the like we said, the German Alps, where we are right now, you and me. You can hear the German,
yodeling.
You can hear the yodeling and the weird cuckoo sounds. Starring Hunter Schafer as Gretchen. It's also starring Jan Bluthart as Henry, the detective.
Oh, Detective Chuckles.
Yeah, Martin Kasakis as Daddy Lewis. We got Jessica Henwick as Beth. Jessica Henwick is really weird in this movie. Like, her casting is really weird, but she's a stepmom anyway, so I think it's fine. But we also have Dan Stevens, or a recent. We talked about Abigail, right?
Yeah.
We did it. We did a little Abigail.
We did like a roundup.
Yeah, Abigail was in that one. Yeah. So last time we saw Dan Stevens, he was being a fucking lunatic in
Just
Abigail, and he's
creepy little freak in that too.
And I guess like after filming that, he went to Abigail, and they were like, "Don't stop, just keep the energy up," because in the past few times we've seen this guy, he's been such a little goblin.
In the very brief window I got to look into things behind the scenes, I found out his role was initially cast as John Malkovich. Like, the character was supposed to be cast for like 60-year-old dude.
Oh.
And then John Malkovich had to pull out like a few weeks before filming. And Dan Stevens was like, let me throw my hat in the ring. And pretty much as soon as he met the writer-director, the guy was like, oh, wait a minute, this dude understands everything about this role.
Yeah. Honestly, Dan Stevens, both recent movies he's been in, he's been like a joy to watch the whole time. He's so goofy and like unhinged. He's always just like on like dial 12, you know.
He's like Looney Tune-ish sometimes.
Yes.
In like
he's a cartoon
in a
character.
suspenseful way,
Mm-hmm.
like a not a over the top kind of way, but just like a what the fuck are you doing out here, Dan?
I will say, you know, I thought he was really fun in this. Man, it would have been I think a much more threatening movie if John Malkovich had been able to do it, though, because he would have brought like a whole different kind of energy to it, and it would have been, I think, a much more insidious kind of villain story.
But the thing about if you put John Malkovich in that kind of role, it's like very clearly right off the bat, you're like, oh, this guy is just evil. If you put a younger dude in that role,
I mean, I kind of knew off
evil.
the bat this guy was evil too.
Yeah, you know he's evil, but like there's a look in his eye that's kind of like, what is your punch? Why aren't you telling us the punchline?
Well, something about
you got some fucking secrets that are beyond.
Yeah, well, you know what? The thing is, it's actually, even though you know he's evil, you still want to trust him because he just looks so beautiful. If you stare him in the eyes, his eyes are like, I've never felt like the urge to call someone dreamy before, but like you look into this dude's eyes and it's like I felt like a middle school girl. I was like, oh my god,
that's
she's
so
looking
funny.
at me.
That's
I don't know what's going on. There's a scene in this movie where he has like he's got like Caribbean Ocean teal eyes like in the lighting that he's in, and I'm like, I was like, I can't even think about the crazy shit that's going on right now.
You know why? Because they filmed it on 35 millimeter.
Movies always look so good. Another one.
I feel like this is like the third or fourth in a row where people are like, yeah, we need to
digital
film
movies
on
suck.
real
Can we go
film
back?
Stock. I found out the director is like one of those dudes who's like really into the like very tactile process of like movie making. He wanted to do the 35 millimeter because he's like, I like big decisions on set. I like having to figure out like, okay, we need to do this for the lighting, and is our camera going to be able to see this far into the woods? Is it going to be able to do this? He loves like the limitations on his art.
Yeah, well, because also it makes it so I do a similar thing with my art where I try to impose, you know, not going back, because I'm a mostly digital artist, you know, so at this point I'm exclusively digital, but I try to impose like limits on myself in terms of like, you know, Control Z, like the undo button and stuff, because in my experience, not only does that like ability to constantly redo stuff end up taking longer, because if you left unchecked, you'll just constantly second guess yourself and backtrack and go, and you'll just, until you feel it's perfect, and it'll never be perfect because we're artists and we hate ourselves no matter what, right?
Correct.
So it's like it becomes this vicious cycle. So forcing yourself to use what is arguably just gonna make a film that's gonna make your movie look better, but also it's harder to like just say, oh, we'll do another take, or we'll do it again, or we'll, you know, you have to just kind of stick to a game plan. I feel like that'll just make it move smoother in the long run.
I mean, that's kind of like his exact, like, almost his exact wording on it too. He was like very much like, yeah, like, you know, you could be very, very strict on your shooting schedule and be like, all right, we're only doing 3 takes for everything. But then, you know, you realize like some stuff's more important than other stuff. And you have to go like, all right, well, we're going to sacrifice maybe 2 or 3 cuts on a particular scene later on because this one we're on now, we need to get it. So they'll do like, you know, a few more takes. But I really liked his, at least the way he talked about his approach to movie making it was very clearly one of those guys where it's like, all right, he has very little budget to work with, and he doesn't have a whole lot of people in the industry who are like, yeah, let's just let this guy do whatever he wants. I think he takes it in stride very gracefully.
Definitely. Have you seen his other his other horror movie?
Is that Lutz? Lutz? Have not.
Luz, Lutz, I think would be how you would pronounce
I would say in the way that like the Giallo films are kind of a blind spot for you, German horror for me is like an untapped vein.
I'm in that boat with you, buddy. You think I haven't seen enough Italian films, German films? Forget about it. I couldn't name a single one. And while this movie is all set in Germany, though, it is like an English film, so you don't have to be...
Yes.
Everyone calm down. Don't turn off the podcast.
You don't have to read it.
It's not a foreign movie. It's in English. It's in English. Please don't let what happened to the foreign films episode happen to Cuckoo.
Yeah, honestly, you ding dong should go back and listen to that episode. The foreign film episode was really fun. And it is one of our least listened to episodes for seemingly no reason.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was badly titled, which would be my fault. I don't know if it was that people really don't care about foreign movies. I don't know. It's weird. But go listen to that one.
This one was a co-production between the German studios and American studios.
And speaking of studios, this is another Neon adventure, and man, Neon they
came to fuck. They said 2024, we're here to fuck.
Yeah, they've been like, it's been this fucking horror movie arms race between A24 and Neon, and Blumhouse is like, Jason Blum's like, come over here, we're gonna do video games now.
Didn't you like Imaginary?
Yeah, fucking Imaginary tanked, and then immediately they were like, we're doing video games.
Megan 3's coming out. Just wait.
Well, I mean, that's fine, though. You know Megan 2 is going to come out, and everyone's going to forget all the bad stuff that Blumhouse did.
Yeah. I think they did good stuff, too. You know, we joke because they're kind of becoming like an industry Cronenberg monster. But, you know, they put out some heaters.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Blumhouse was the upstart, the new kid in the game. And then we were like, oh, Blumhouse, that's where all the horror movies are. But now they're like, old, and it's like whatever, it's just Blumhouse. We got A24 now, we got Neon now, but eventually someone new will come along and they'll make like a really good indie horror movie, and we'll be like, yeah, Neon just does dumb stuff these days.
But yeah, no, they've been knocking it out of the park. I'm really interested to see what they have on their slate for next year. But
I'm interested to see how the success of Longlegs affects just horror movies in general, like the next coming years, but also how Neon like will be affected, how like their mentality will shift or not shift based on like how well Longlegs did, because man, it is doing crazy numbers. What did we just read? Is like 71 million
on a budget of like 10, somewhere under 10, which fucking good for them.
Yeah,
you know what I say? Good for them.
It's awesome, but it will be interesting to see what the fallout of that is. For good or bad, we never know. Usually, in my experience, when it comes to corporate entities, they will learn the worst lesson from Longlegs' success. It's just gonna be every movie's just gonna have Nicolas Cage in it secretly. You're just never gonna know, because they were like, well, everyone loved Longlegs and we kept him a secret the whole time.
Just be showing up on set like, let me in now.
My God, we're gonna be haunted by my fucking Longlegs forever. Oh,
if only.
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
But we're not here to talk about Longlegs. We're talking about Cuckoo. So Cuckoo is the story of a 17-year-old girl, Gretchen, played by
Hunter
Schafer, who is 26.
Yeah. Similar. What were
So
we
again,
just
we
watching?
have to. We were watching the trailer for Beetlejuice, right?
Oh,
and
yes,
we were like,
yes.
we were like, after this movie, Jenna Ortega is not allowed to play a high schooler.
Yeah,
anymore.
we were.
I just finished watching Miller's Girl. This movie, Beetlejuice, is coming out. She can't. She has to. Age up.
There's a couple.
I can't do
of
another
that
high
age
school
range of actors and actresses where I'm like, guys, we gotta grow up a little bit. We can't keep doing this. I remember I looked over to you in the theater when we were watching the Beetlejuice trailer. I was like, I mean, surely this is the last time she's gonna try and play a high schooler, right? Like, I mean, I understand going back to the well because, like, if somebody was like, you get to play Lydia Dietz's daughter, I'd be like, all right, well, yeah, I'm 17 again, but we're done. We gotta be done. This has got to be Hunter's last voyage into the teenage character sphere.
Yeah, which also. I'll get into it, but let's get over the plot of the movie. So 17-year-old Gretchen, having recently lost her mother, is forced to move in with her estranged father and her stepfamily while in the middle of their move to the German Alps to build a resort, like a vacation mountain resort for a guy under which they've already built one resort. So they're staying on like the grounds of the resort they already helped build.
Yes.
And they're in theory going to help him build more. So they get to stay in this fancy. And I said it when we were in the movie, they stay in this architect house that it's like, if you guys have ever seen a movie where one of the characters is an architect, you know what the house looks like because it's always the same, like cubist, like everything. The house is 90% windows there, and then occasional like wood paneling. The house, it's like the house that the fucking Twilight vampires live in. It's always the same. It's the same house for it's the same house that was in The Orphan.
Yep.
It's like they're always do architects only live in those houses? It was the house that was in fucking Heavy Rain. Like it's always the same house.
Yeah, where you just have like these long like rectangular shapes with like integrated nature features. It's always very Franklin Lloyd Wright.
Yeah, Franklin Lloyd Wright.
Although I will say there was a really fucking cool feature to this house where like one of the living room walls that was essentially windows like retracts into the floor, so you can kind of have this like open concept living room with like your backyard, which looked really fucking cool. But like the mess that must make in your house is insane.
Well, yeah, the nature is probably less intrusive in the on the top of the German Alps, than it would be here in Georgia. We'd have like fucking centipedes like all over the house. It'd be crazy, but there's probably not too much to worry about there. But anyway, so we have Gretchen. She's lost her mother. She moves in with her father into the Alps, along with her stepmom and little stepsister and
mute
stepsister. And she starts working at the hotel to help out the resort owner.
Yeah, the resort owner
who's close friends with like the father, and she starts experiencing weird visions and hearing strange sounds and weird behavior from the people in the hotel, and it kind of spirals from there. This is the general gist of the movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really all you can say about it is stuff gets weird, right? Because otherwise you start getting into
weird.
This movie definitely, I will say, tries to play with it tries to do some funny things with its title, right, and its subject matter.
Yes.
The cuckoo bird is all over the movie. The guy that owns the resort that Gretchen's Herr Koenig. He's really obsessed with the cuckoo bird. He's got all this imagery all over the place. So that's a big theme in the movie. But also cuckoo is like a very common term for crazy, right?
Yes.
You say people are. So this movie tries to do like a little thing where it's like, oh, is Hunter Schafer's character just going cuckoo, right? Is she crazy
style.
Nobody's believing her that like stuff's going on. And we'll get into it when we get like into the spoiler territory, but I don't think that part of it really works very well because I feel like they only like went halfway with the is she crazy thing. And if you're gonna like if that's gonna be part of your story, you gotta like go like
You
all
gotta,
the way.
you gotta really set that.
You gotta
part
dive head first, and they kind of just did dip their toes in the is my main character crazy and unreliable.
I would say my non-spoiler hottest take about this movie, it's got the wrong title. I think this movie would be about at least 15 to 20 more percent impactful and interesting in its like finales and twists if it had any other title.
You know what? We're in a weird space now where all of these there's been really successful movies that have had like offbeat titles.
Bonkers titles, yeah.
So it used to be like if you were going to make a horror movie, you had to be like very, literal. It used to be like The Grudge, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Let
Halloween.
the right one in.
But now it's like Skinamarink and Cuckoo and Longlegs. It's like we're doing this thing now where like popular horror movies that are successful just happen to have goofy titles. So now we're gonna be that's gonna be it, man. We're gonna every movie from now on that we're gonna be covering is gonna be like the Grindley Boop.
I was about to say, from the studio that brought you Pwingles and Ipsims. New horror thriller starring
Just in Time for Summer, Mr. Soft Serve. It's just gonna be all just like innocuous and be like, are you ready for Slinky? Are you like it's gonna be nothing but nonsense titles. So
you'll be racing to the theaters for Tall Socks.
The sequel to Long Legs. You gotta have if you have long legs,
you gotta wear tall socks.
Tall Socks, son of long legs. Oh my god. But yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly the title didn't really bother me, but I understand your reservations with it, and I posit for the world to be prepared.
Yeah.
For the future of horror movies being the names is going to be crazy. People's like libraries, are going to be it's going to be so funny seeing movies like that juxtaposed against the more classic literal movie names. So I'm looking forward to that. I guess spoiler free, just general opinion for me. We're really fresh. I think this might be the freshest off a movie that we've been. I don't think we've ever watched a movie and then like let an hour pass and then recorded.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like there might have been one other,
maybe one earlier on.
Yeah, when we started, but I gotta agree. I think it's the fastest both of us have come out of a theater and sat down to record.
Yeah, so it might be recency bias. I will say I really enjoyed my ride through this movie. I thought it was a good time. I don't think it definitely didn't take itself hyper seriously, especially for a movie that I feel like it could have easily taken the bait of like a Talk to Me, or where it goes over serious and so melodramatic that while it worked for that movie, you really have to be like dialed in and committed to that. It could have easily been like super try hard.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just like Hunter Schafer's character Gretchen is like pretty much our only person in the movie who's like reacting to situations realistically, or
is even really any amount of a real person. Everybody's cartoons.
Everyone's so much a movie character.
And, that really works for me. I think it's very funny. It adds to the surrealness of the movie, the cuckoo-ness of it. Also, Hunter Schafer, I mean, what a powerhouse. Anytime she's on screen for anything.
She's killing it. So, weird pushback. Fan of hers. I think she did amazing in this movie. I'm excited to see her in Blade 2099.
Is she going to be in?
Blade Runner, not Blade.
Oh, I was like, she's
going to be in Blade? She's going to be in the Amazon show. I'm excited to see whatever she ends up doing with Hideo Kojima, because he's in love with her too.
Yeah, who wouldn't be? I'm in love with Hunter Schafer.
Like, I've seen all of this like press around this movie where people are like, Hunter Schafer's a scream queen, Hunter Schafer approaching scream queen territory, which is like, oh, I get it. I'm rooting for her, but like, let her earn it.
Yeah, I don't think she earns Scream Queen with this movie alone.
Give her like 3 or 4 more roles like this. I'm like sold, totally on board with you.
She has to prove that you have to want the title a little bit to be, like Jenna Ortega earned it because she's in, whether like we want her there or not, she's in 90% of the horror movies, right? She, you know, she earned it. She put in the mileage to be like Scream Queen, right? So
same thing with Mia Goth.
Oh yeah, 100%. Although Mia Goth's like more usually like the villain in her movie.
That's fine. You can do both.
So I don't know if she get, you know, but still, yeah. I think if Hunter Schafer like is interested in like pursuing more horror roles, and you know, she's got it in her, you know.
Yeah.
But I will say, in terms of just the literal ability to scream, she's got some good screams in this movie. Like really guttural, like powerful screams that are like very believable, which is tough.
No, I'm not trying to say her.
No, I know.
Yeah. she was amazing.
She needs a couple more rounds.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say like that her performance was under par to detract from her ability at all, cuz like I said, big fan. I think she's been doing great. I think she's got some cool roles ahead of her.
Definitely.
I would like to just see, you know, a couple more of these before we're just giving that title away to people.
True.
On the other hand, Dan Stevens,
Scream Queen?
Scream King.
Scream King?
Scream King's a title.
He's doing good.
I think he's
making
on his way.
He's making a little home for himself.
Yeah, he's coming off Downton Abbey, and he's like, let me put on these glasses and really freak him out.
But I will say, I would greatly look forward to more horror movies with Hunter Schafer. I think she was honestly like tremendous in her performance in this movie. In anything she does, she's just got such range. She can be so like reserved and downplayed in her emotions, but then when she needs to bring them out, I mean, she can go so like far and like high and like
in like every direction
with everything. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy. So and honestly, horror movies really like sing when you can get somebody in your like lead role who can do that. So I hope we get more. Hunter Schafer was really, really good in this. Everybody else also good. It's just that everyone was a cartoon except for her character.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall though, I had a really good time. I thought like it was a very suspenseful movie. It's a little twisty turny. If like you like me, I had no idea what it was about other than the fact that I knew the title, you know, so I had to kind of guess as to what it was, where we were going to end up. But overall, like I just thought it was really good. Just think a nice, fun cap of the summer, like horror romp. I don't think it's gonna blow anyone out of the water, but you don't really need that every time you watch a movie. I mean, I think there's just like a good, like whimsical kind of like fun little romp through the German Alps.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, you know, coming off of The Watchers, where we talk so much about like folk lore and kind of like fairy tale stuff, it does have a very like fairy tale quality to it.
Yeah, which is why I said it reminded me a little bit in tone of Hatching, but I think that's mostly because while this movie is in English, it does take a lot of like stylistic like cues from European like storytelling and filmmaking, you know. So it felt you can always tell when something is like a European tale, because there's just like a certain way they deal with storytelling that like America is just like it's almost alien to us.
Yeah, I know the guy.
So it always feels dreamlike and whimsical, you know.
I know they were trying to lean into that kind of for like the aesthetic. That's why they went with the film stock that they chose. I know he was specifically very into like wider angle lenses and stuff as opposed to like a telephoto lens. He wanted to really try and like wrap the viewers up in that atmosphere and really like try to get you to, through like the visuals, fall into your like sense of suspended disbelief.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like that. It would have to be. I would hope that it was intentional, because again, every single person that Hunter Schafer's character Gretchen interacts with is nonsensical for the most part. Like every interaction she has, anytime anyone does anything, you're like, why are we doing it this way?
Why are you this way?
And it actually, she even specifically points it out later in probably like the best line of the movie, which again they gave away in the trailer, which is a real shame because it was such like a good like punctuation in the middle of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But we can get into now. I mean, we can get into spoiler territory.
Well, what do you think? Do you think this is a definite go see in theater? I would say it's definitely worth your time here in the late weeks of the summer. I think it's worth going to see in theater. It benefits from its scale, I think, on screen. And as good as it's going to be in your house, I think you should go see this one before it hits streams.
And I think it's worth it to get. I mean, Neon deserves the money.
Yeah,
they deserve.
You know what? They've been putting in the work.
Yeah, they've been putting in the hours. I think they've earned it. They earned it all summer, and this one's no different. So,
and to all the maybe underage listeners that we may or may not have. This director specifically wants you to go sneak into theaters.
I saw that article. He was like, I hope kids sneak into this and then get fucked up.
Yeah, he's like, I made this because...
Which is the dream.
Yeah, right?
Of any horror movie creator, right?
Yeah. Because he saw the star power of Hunter Schafer climbing as they were kind of developing the film because it got delayed while she was filming the 2 seasons of Euphoria. She built this huge, built-in audience for herself. And he was stoked on that because the more and more success she got before the movie, was coming together, he was like, this is going to be great. I hope this younger generation of people are interested in this project. I hope they sneak into theaters to see it. I hope it fucks them up. Mm-hmm. I would love for this movie to be like, a seminal piece of that generation's kind of like introduction to big time horror movies.
Yeah. And I guess another thing before we get into the movie, I agree. I think this is a watch, but also it was really nice to see Hunter be able to be in a movie that wasn't like about her gender identity,
True.
Like it not that like there isn't like a place for like queer horror, like I'm totally all about it, like, but it's nice that Hunter can like just be cast or any trans actress can be just cast in a role, and it doesn't have to be. It's got to be exhausting for like queer and trans
just to get pigeonholed,
people to only be able to do roles that are like just about that part of them. It's like Hunter Schafer's just a woman, so it's good that she even though she's not a 17-year-old woman, it's still nice that we can just make like a movie about like sisters and just have her be herself, and it doesn't have to be like a big long commentary, thought piece about the trans experience. She can just exist as a woman and be an actress. It's cool. I just. It doesn't have to, because the movie's not a big conversation about it. We don't have to have it.
Matt's so tired of the woke media agenda.
I'm tired of the opposite. I'm tired of people being like always having to have to talk about it. I'm sure every trans girl would like to just be a girl, and not have to talk about like every second of their day being like this fucking like journey. They can't just exist.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they were just like, yeah, you want to be in this movie, and it has nothing to do with anything other than you're a good actress.
I'm pretty sure she landed the role based on like self-tapes auditions during COVID, and it was one of those things where like the director immediately was like, yes, we want this person. Before she was even like, before Euphoria had even like debuted, so like he hadn't even seen her in like her breakout role, and was like, this is the actress I need for this character. This is perfect.
Yeah, and she does a fantastic job. And with that, we can get into it, right? So we are like hot off the presses with this movie, so you're really gonna super have to forgive us for being like, and then what happened? And then I think this is when that, because we've seen it once and it was an hour ago. So it's all jumbled up in our brains. We've had no time to like digest and map out like the plot,
Yeah, and we're not going to be doing a beat by beat.
No, we're done with
recap
that kinda,
anyway.
Coverage anyway. But yeah, so I mean, we'll just go from the beginning though. So the movie opens up, right, and it's the family is moving to, all of their shit's being moved to the top of this fucking honestly very beautiful mountain
Gorgeous
range.
scenery.
The scenery in this movie is so nice that it's actually a shame that the movie ends in such a dreary, like nothing kind of like building
Indoor location,
you know.
yeah.
But we'll get to that one. But yeah, so the whole family's moving to the German Alps, right?
Bavarian Alps.
Is it the Bavarian?
Yes.
Well, German, Bavaria, it's all, you know.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But Bavarian sound.
They got lederhosen.
Bavarian. I just think of the donuts, you know. So anytime I hear Bavaria, I just get like hungry for dessert. Hunter Schafer's character is Gretchen. Her whole family. So she has her dad, and then
Her stepmom?
Her stepmom is Beth, I believe.
Correct.
Is the name. And what's really funny to me is that Beth, her so Hunter Schafer, granted, is playing a 17-year-old character in this movie.
Okay.
Her stepmom, Beth, is played by Jessica Henwick. Jessica Henwick is 30 years old. So Jessica Henwick is playing, granted, the stepmother, but it's like the stepmother of Hunter Schafer, who's only 5 years younger than her. Which, I mean, is a funny stepmom thing we always like to joke about in movies and TV. But it struck me. I was like, there's no way. These two actresses have to be relatively close in age.
Yeah.
And then fucking Martin Kasakis, like their dad Louise is just like he's this old architect. He's got his like unkempt hair, his architect glasses, and his 5 o'clock shadow to show that he's an artist.
His character screams second wife. He just wears it in every stitch of clothing on him. It just screams new family.
Yep. Gretchen's mom has passed away. That's pretty clear. We never get any confirmation as to like the circumstances.
Yeah.
For we just know that she's gone, and Gretchen is not doing hot on that.
I don't know if they try to give us the idea that maybe she's not dead, but to me, anytime you have a character in any movie who's leaving multiple messages on an answering machine, I'm like, that person they're calling is dead.
Oh yeah, like didn't they do that in that Turning of the Screw movie where she was talking to her mom the whole time? Yeah. I thought that's what Longlegs was going to be.
You thought she was
I thought she was talking to her dead mom the whole time, but then it was a different kind. It was worse.
And then we met her in real life.
Yeah, it was a lot worse than I thought. So Gretchen, they're all moving to the Alps. Immediately there's like isolation established because the whole family is in a nice little like station wagon together being happy, but like Gretchen has to ride with the movers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and not even and it's two movers, like one driving, one in the middle, and she's like scrunched up like and it's like you couldn't let your daughter ride with the rest of you.
I'm gonna go out on a limb with no confirmation of this and assume that was just a character decision, because I can imagine her not wanting to ride in the car with her stepsister who she's not like totally in love with yet, and her stepmom who she actively hates. If she's like, maybe I could just ride with these guys and listen to my music.
Yeah, that might be true. Well, also Gretchen, it's more than she doesn't love her stepsister. She like actively denies that they're sisters,
that they're even related. Yeah.
And so they get there, they get to their new house, they start to get things set up. I think at first they stop off at that hotel, right? That so it's like a resort, right? So you have the main like lodge of the hotel, but then there's a bunch of like little cabins like strewn all about.
Yeah, we get to see this cool like 3D diorama in the like foyer of the hotel resort. We kind of see the layout. There's like the main space is the resort, but then there's this big tucked away building where I guess the doctor lives. And
Herr Koenig.
Yeah.
He lives like amidst one of the characters even points it out as like kind of weird, and then Gretchen is like, yeah, it's like really weird because he lives just in a villa that like is surrounded by the cabins.
Yeah, he like all of the cabins are essentially the front yard of his villa.
Of his house, which they were like, yeah, that's funky.
Fucking weird. Yeah.
And again, so this is where we also meet Dan Stephenson's character, Herr Koenig. He's putting on a very fun He might even be is he German? Dan Stevens? He's putting on a fun accent.
If he's not German, he is playing it very well. From what I understand, his addition to the movie was based on his like ability to act in a way that was convincing enough that he like understood the like German personality or like kind of nuances to the way his accent works and the way he like talks and the way he interacts with the other characters.
Yeah. We also meet like we meet one other character,
Beatrix.
She's played by Greta Fernandez, who doesn't really have too much of a filmography I'm familiar with because it's mostly like Spanish language films that she does. But she's pretty funny in it. She's a funny little side character.
And a babe,
for sure, absolutely. And then I think after that we get to the new house where they're all gonna live again. This shitty fucking architect house that like would be for me miserable to live in. Too much natural light. Too much.
Yeah. I as soon as I saw the house, I was like, oh, this would make Matt's skin crawl.
Yeah,
it's not cavernous enough.
No, it's too bright and too many things can just look at you while you're trying to just exist, you know?
But you have to think it's not like they're in the suburbs. They're out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, that's where things look at you.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
In the suburbs, people would be looking at you, which is bad enough, but like I don't want unknown things looking at
again. It's one of those like buildings where they like very clearly were like, we need to integrate the elements of the nature in their surroundings into the home so it feels like a cohesive piece. And it does. It's like I think it's pretty sweet digs.
From there, so they get to the house, and I mean, this is where we kind of establish like the family dynamic even more. So again, Gretchen's stepsister, her name is Alma. She is mute. She cannot speak. She uses like a text to speech thing on like her phone.
It's like a keyboard. It's like a specialized keyboard. I actually just watched a documentary about this yesterday.
Oh.
There's this thing called facilitated speech where people who are speech or communication impaired use like these little keyboards with speakers so that they can do like the text to talk situation. It's
with like rapidity, you know, so they can do it fast. And
yes, yeah.
That's pretty interesting. That's really cool. So that's like the kind of thing that the stepsister uses. You can tell that it's like Gretchen is like is actively front facing. She's like, this isn't my sister, but she is able to use sign language to communicate with her when like nobody else does really, you know. So she like clearly put in the effort to like be able to communicate with her. So it's like you can tell that she likes the sister. She just doesn't like this situation.
Yeah. It's just like a very 17-year-old attitude towards the whole thing. It's like, I don't want to be here. We find out that she's in a band and her band is sending her like new music that she has to either record over or practice. And so she's like, I'd rather be like anywhere else but here. Mm-hmm. I don't like my dad. I don't like the people that I have to interact with. Yeah. I'm pissed off that my sister is like essentially my dad's new favorite. Like,
yeah, well, it definitely the movie is extremely heavy-handed with Beth and the father like clearly doting and preferring the young new daughter, the new model, you know?
Mm-hmm. The new model.
So it's extremely, the movie like pushes that on you like hardcore. It's like, all right, so Gretchen feels neglected. This is a shitty situation. These parents are awful.
Yeah, they're not good.
They're bad horror dad. If we're talking about, this guy goes like way high up on the list of bad horror dads. He sucks.
I think we might have to do that for Father's Day.
Bad horror dads?
Yeah.
Can we do a shit on dads?
Well, we did a good. We did the good
mom one.
The good mom one, which was like, who's the best mom? Let's figure out who's the worst horror dad. We'll have a tournament of that. Stay tuned.
Yeah, that way our dads can. Your dad can be like, oh, look at all those bad dads.
I'm not as bad as that
I'm
guy.
not them. and then for mine, it'll be like, these guys aren't nearly as bad as my dad. So after that, Dan Stevens' character, Herr Koenig, he introduces himself more formally to Gretchen and offers her a job working at the hotel. Mm-hmm. But he's very specific about like he's very like controlling. He's like, oh, like obviously like we'll pay you this amount and like and I can drive you there and back and just, you know, the whole movie he's very like you can't be out past this time. It's dangerous. Anytime it's getting late, he's like, oh, I'll drive you home. Can't have you out at night. Basically immediately Dan Stevens, you're like, this guy is in on whatever's happening.
Yes, that's
There's
what I
no
love
doubt.
about his
There's
character.
no doubt in your mind.
It's like this in the entire movie. He's kind of got this like smirk in his eye, in the glint of his eye.
His beautiful ocean eyes.
I just can't believe of all the fucking movies we've watched that like
so
this is the
attracted
one
to
where
this
your
guy.
like sexual awakening is happening.
Something about his eyes, man.
That's fine, to each his own. I don't know how to put it. It's weird because like her dad almost also has a reaction to him where he immediately falls into this like routine of like, oh, I need to appeal to this guy, like we are indebted to this guy, we need to be nice to this guy, like I owe this guy things,
right?
in my
Because
life.
he like basically is funding their move. He's gonna, in theory, make them like really rich because they're gonna build a whole new resort and they're gonna have like a stake in it. There's like little like bits, dropped in about it. Either way, there's a reason. They're like slurping this guy's glorp, basically.
Slurping his glorp.
So they're really, Beth and Dad are like really into pleasing this dude.
Yeah.
And so Gretchen also agrees, to work with him. That's where she goes and she starts working the front desk at the hotel. She meets Trixie, shows her the ropes, and it's just a very funny little tension light scene. We anytime Trixie's around, you're gonna laugh. Oh, we also forgot there was a cold open to the movie that we like totally skipped. Yeah, there's a cold open where like the girl, the adolescent
That's
girl
right.
is, not to get too crazy and go back too far, but like there's like a cold open where there's like a couple that's fighting really loud, and you don't see their faces, you just hear them fighting, and it's like a slow zoom into like a girl who's like freaking out, and you're like, oh, is she upset because her parents are fighting?
She's like shaking,
and then it gets like closer and closer, and this like weird overarching like noise is happening, and her ears start to like do this weird twitch
Can
thing.
you wiggle your ears like that?
I can't.
I can. Watch this. Hold on. For our audio podcast.
Yeah,
this
show
is
me
just
your
for
ear
Matt.
wiggle. That's pretty impressive, but it's not the way that she's
Always been
doing
able
it.
to wiggle my ears.
But it's not the way they're doing it.
No, they're like, it's like an animalistic kind of twitch. It's like, oh, hold on, I'm picking up on a signal.
And so this like teenage girl starts freaking out, and then eventually she just sprints out of the house and into the night of the woods, and you're like, well, that was weird, and that's when we like cut to the
Gretchen moving in, yeah.
And so like a couple, like, I don't know the timeline of this movie, but nights or weeks go by.
There's a couple beats, but it is like within like the first like few
nights.
I think it's within the first like few days where she is listening to like, I guess, some music that her friends in her band has sent her. And so she's got like these big, huge, like sound canceling like studio quality headphones on, and she's like strumming along on her guitar.
Yeah, she's the bassist. So she's doing the bass, practicing the bass over the rest of the music they've recorded.
And her sister comes in and is kind of like casually just like observing her, because with those big headphones on, she doesn't know anyone else is in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get all these like shots leading up to this of like the woods. And then we hear that same noise from the cold open. It's like this weird, like echoey, kind of reverberate-y, like screech.
It's hard to describe like what the sound that overarcs this movie is. It is like a screech. It's like a bird song, but done by a person, essentially.
It's accompanied with this really bizarre
crazy
visual that
reverb
like
thing.
Repeats throughout the movie, where like, yeah, you get like this super close up of like just over your clavicle between like your what are these bones called? How did I forget the bones?
Collarbones?
Collarbones, thank you. Like right at the tip of the bow of your collarbones, where like you see like the skin is like
it's like pulsating.
Yeah, it's like pounding.
Like as if you've ever watched like an opera singer.
Yeah, or one of those big howler monkeys.
Well, or to be more human about it, yeah. If you ever seen like a really powerful opera singer, they can like, it's like this reverb going on in your like from like their whole throat, like their voice box and their chest. It's like this. So you get this extreme close close up of this like pulsating like like chest like chest close up of something or someone, and you're like, well, that's fucking weird.
But it sends our little sister into what looks like a standing seizure.
Yeah, the little sister starts freaking out. Hunter Schafer's character Gretchen tries to shake her out of it, and then she gets clawed in the face. Not too bad, but it's the first of the like many injuries that Gretchen receives this movie.
And it's the first of many loops we can observe.
Right. So the weird thing that happens is when this sound is heard by characters in the movie, they become like sort of trapped in this time loop. It's sort of like this quick repetition of whatever, like whenever they're overcome by this frequency, whatever action they just did when it overtakes them, they like start to repeat over and over and over again. Yeah. But it's weird because it's not an actual like chronological time loop. It's a thing where like whatever their last couple seconds are being perceived over and over and by
over
them. Because there's like times in the movie where a character like later in the movie, Gretchen like gets stuck in this loop where she's like breaking like a board, right? But she does it over and over and over again. So obviously it's not like a physical loop because once she broke the board, it wouldn't
no, it locks you into this like loop paralysis of like the last like 4 or 5 seconds of whatever you were doing, and it's like it's fully sense encompassing. It's like auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations. You just get stuck in like this little time frame.
And it's actually really cool in the movie because all the characters who end up getting stuck in that, by like the end of the sequence, you can see the actors change their reactions where they're becoming aware that they're stuck in this loop and they're getting like really frightened by it. So it's cool to see them like the same scene over and over again a couple times, and then it changes where like the character is doing the same thing but is like really scared. So like that's the seeing it, like the realization in their eyes happen is really cool. A lot of really good emotional like face reading acting happening this year. Yeah. And so that happens, but eventually like the Gretchen breaks Alma out of it, and then eventually she gets scratched. Hey guys, it's Matt again. Just letting you know, this is the point of no return. This is when the audio starts to get funky, so feel free to stop now or keep listening if you dare. And then the family comes in. And again, this happens in movies like this kind of thing happens all the time. I've seen this plot line with like the parents who love one kid over the other, and the parents come in and they're like, "What'd you do to her?" And it's like the chick Gretchen's the one with the face all scratched up now. Yeah. What did she do to her? The other one, it's like, what do you mean?
So she has a visible wound on her face, and they're like, what did you do to her? And she's like,
Alma is fine.
She's wiggling. She's fine.
So there's bad parents. There's bad parenting, man. After that, we cut right where she's doing her training with Beatrix. Because Beatrix asks, she's like, what happened to you? And she's like, my sister scratched me. And then this is where we start to find out that like a lot of like the female visitors like come into like the gift shop and just like puke everywhere. It happens multiple times in the movie.
Yeah, this girl is like, while she's doing her training, there's like 5 characters there. There's her, Hunter's character, Gretchen. There's Trixie, her co-worker. There's a local like security / police officer who is like clearly romantically involved with Trixie. And then there's just this one other random young couple. And as they're kind of like talking and getting to know each other, this girl throws up everywhere. And
Trixie just goes, yeah, that happens sometimes.
Yeah, that happens.
It's like, and it turns out we find out that it happens like a lot more.
Yeah.
Because there's a future shift that Hunter's character has where she's not supposed to work at night. But Trixie's like trying to, get dick down, right? So she's like, well, she convinces her, can you just stay late?
Cover my shift so I can go bang.
And Hunter's like, okay, whatever, because she doesn't care about what anybody says anyway. And then that night, while she's dealing with so she gets a customer who wants to come in, and she's just like this. Like, how would you describe this woman? She's just like a drifter that is gonna, no matter who she encountered, she was gonna get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So it's like one of those characters. It's like she comes in, and whether the character is like male or female, they're like this drifter that is just like sexy and mysterious, and you're like, ugh, just get me into trouble, please. Take me out of my day job, my night job. Take me away. I don't care what happens to me. You know, it's one of those characters.
Yep.
She's got the rose-colored, like, circular glasses. She rolls up and she's like, I'm trying to buy this beer.
She looks like she fell out of Lenny Kravitz's closet. Like she stumbled out of Lenny's closet, fell into his clothes, and then poof, arrived on set dripping in sex.
Yeah, it's an extremely just horny-inducing character.
Although I gotta point out, definitely an adult of at least 30 years old who is coming on to Hunter's 17-year-old character pretty strong.
But in her defense, Hunter is actually 25, so the 17-year-old looked much older.
Undefendable standpoint.
It's Germany, man. They got cannibals going on. There's way worse things to worry about. Yeah, so there is a bit of like a romantic, like flirtatious thing going on, but it's interrupted by another woman in the dead of night coming in and just vomiting everywhere.
She's Porky Pig in it. She's got nothing but a t-shirt on. She walks in, grabs a soda out of the fridge, and starts fucking slamming it after she throws up all over the everywhere. Stuff.
But I mean, what feels better after you vomited everywhere? What feels better than like a soda to just like use that effervescence to just clear all that out? You know, it gets up in your nose. It clears it all out. A soda is like great for post puke.
What kind of weird German soda do you think that was? Some kind of weird banana flavored something?
Do they have a lot of banana stuff in Germany?
I
generally a tropical fruit.
I just assume every other country does sodas in a way crazier way than
that's
us.
because they do it different. But I can't even begin to imagine. And honestly, I don't think this lady cared all that much.
No,
because she like slams that soda, fucking crushes the can, and then is just like sorry, and then just goes back away. So clearly, this isn't like a thing that happens sometimes. It's clearly a very frequent occurrence.
Yeah.
Which holds horrible implications for the end of the movie. After that, the character that Hunter is interacting with here, her name is Ed, played by Astrid Burgess. Astrid, what a cool name!
Astrid is a cool name.
Astrid's a dope name. And so Ed takes her beer and goes back home after a lingering like hand touch.
Mm-hmm.
Right, there's flirtation and there's like a little hand touch.
There's some fuck me eyes. There's some fuck me eyes coming up over this.
She says, you know, she's like, oh, clearly you look like you want to get out of here. Mm-hmm. You know, you should come with me to Paris. You know,
gay Paris.
Made me think of like the whole come to Brazil thing. You know about that? The whole like that meme of just come to Brazil.
Come to Brazil. It's great.
So I was that's all I could think of when she said, she's like, come with me to Paris. You know, there's all sorts of stuff going on there.
We have music in Paris.
And then, so this is where we start to get like the big turn in the movie with the spookiness, because Hunter goes to go home. She gets like a phone call from Herr Koenig, who's trying to contact Beatrix, but then he realizes that Gretchen's there and he's like, what are you doing there? You're not supposed to be here this late. I'm going to come get you right now. I'll pick you up. I'll drive you home.
Turn off all the lights, lock the doors.
And though, again, because Gretchen doesn't give a shit about anything, she's like, oh, whatever. So she closes up and then just rides her bike home. And she ends up getting chased on her way home in the dead of night by
the hooded woman.
This hooded woman. But we get like such a good, the introduction to the chase is so good because we get this like side shot of Hunter riding, you know, down the road, and past her you can see like the back porch lights of houses that are like lit as she's riding past them. And from those, as she's going past, from like in the lights of the backyard, you can just see this way in the distance, this figure just like full tilt sprinting,
running,
and it's like, and it's not like it's like a creature. It's just like a person, but in like full like trench coat, like jacket, like fully dressed, not for sprinting.
Noir garb is what I would call it.
Like, you know, in a noir movie when like a mysterious woman shows up like right as the detective's about to like turn in for the night, and she's like got the dark glasses, and she's like, she's got the she's still
Head
bundled
scarf,
up.
she's
My
got a
husband
hood
has
up.
disappeared.
Yeah.
You know, it's exactly that outfit, but she's like full tilt, like fucking sprinting, and you get this really tense, cool scene where like Hunter doesn't realize that she's being chased because she's on a bike, so she's obviously going faster than like a person normally would. And you see as she's going under like street lights, you can see like the shadow of her herself on the bicycle, like going by in the street lights. But then she like looks down, and then she starts to see like a hand getting closer as something is directly sprinting behind her. Dude, it's terrifying.
The way I would throw up if all of a sudden I was riding my bike. Granted, my bike moves a little bit faster. It's got an electric engine in it. But even if I was riding that bike and I saw like a fucking arm reaching out for me when I had like headphones on, I would fucking crash the bike and throw up.
Yeah, absolutely fucking terrifying. And then she turns around, and this woman just like screaming, going like,
she got fucking like laser eyes.
Yeah, she's got these dark glasses on, but it looks like she's got like Halloween decoration, like red LED lights that are like burning through the glass. It's so funny, but so scary.
It's really cool. They when they were talking in interviews about this character, which they call the Hooded Woman, they were like, you know, we could do it like Jaws, where we're trying to hide this thing, but the real fear comes from like the paranoia of once you see it early on, you just know that thing's out there.
Yeah.
So then anytime we see it, we're like, oh, fuck, there it is again. It's back. What is this thing?
Also, there is something terrifying just about the like mundane look of the creature. It's just a lady.
Yeah.
She's got scary eyes behind these glasses.
And a gross complexion, but
yeah, but like ultimately, like it's just a lady. But the fact that like just you're riding your bike in the middle of the night and you turn around and there's just a lady screaming and reaching for you, like running full tilt while you're riding your bike. It's like terrifying.
Inches behind your back.
And then so Gretchen is like, she sees that and she's like, oh fuck, and then like pedal to the metal, starts really biking home. And then she stops off because she knows she's being chased. So she stops at a hospital, right? And then gets let in only like through the preliminary like doors, and then doesn't like realize that the secondary set isn't going to open, and then just runs like face first into the glass, cracks it, and gets like a brutal head wound that is like the special effects for it look really good.
Yeah, it like splits a huge cut across like her forehead.
Yeah,
like,
and like the thing about head wounds is they look always extra nasty because like your face skin is like stretched pretty like taut.
It's taut and thin.
So when you get cut there, it like just opens up really wide. And this movie is like very brutal with it. And to the fact where after she gets like the lady, you know, can't get into the hospital in time to catch Gretchen's character because like the police show up.
Mm-hmm. She just like vanishes.
But then we cut immediately to like her getting like staple gunned, right? And it's not even like stitches. It's just straight up like
just medical staple gun.
It's so brutal. Yeah, I hate it.
You ever get head staples?
No, I haven't. I've had head stitches, but never staples. And I don't look forward to any day where I might need to,
me neither.
To have that
me neither. That'll be a no for me.
Sounds the worst.
My brother split his chin open pretty bad when we were kids once, and he had to get like staples? A few stitches. No, just stitches. But like I remember I had to stay home. We were like little. Like we were like taking a bath together young. And he slipped like getting out of the tub. And I was just terrified he was going to come home looking like Frankenstein. I remember I was crying. I was so concerned. I was like, my brother's going to be ugly.
Oh, that's so fun. That's such a little kid thing to worry about. So yeah, after the hospital scene, and also I wouldn't like being stapled by doctors in this resort town where everybody acts insane. Like nobody acts real. Every interaction I've had with anybody is like, what? Can I go back to America, please?
Yeah.
Not that everyone in Germany is like a cartoon character, but like everyone in this movie, in this town, is a cartoon character. And so after that, Oh, right, because so like she leave Hunter's character, so Gretchen leaves the room all stitched up, and then her family just happens to now be in the hospital because the little sister had that
Seizure. He had another seizure.
So now they're like, she had another one, and so, but the like Gretchen's character is like, hey dad, I was like attacked by a woman. I had my head is split open. I just got stapled shut. And he's like, oh yeah, but I have to go. Your sister had a seizure, you know. And
Yeah, we
like,
got to go scan your sister down.
Gretchen like at all. It's he's every time he gets like even like a chance to like do anything decent, this character is just like, nah.
It's so funny in this scene. He has like a 1 second opportunity where like he interacts with Gretchen, and then immediately refocuses on the little sister, and then realizes like, oh, wait a minute, I was in the middle of a conversation about like why my daughter got her head split open. Maybe I should like turn around and like see what's up with her. And she's immediately like, okay, you fucked up. Bye.
Yeah. But so this is also the point in the movie where we start, now that she's like been attacked, this is where the movie tries to kind of do the, is she crazy or she
but it's like just a hysterical woman?
At never any point does the movie do anything to convince you that like Gretchen is crazy. It's just that everybody else thinks she's crazy, but you're on her side.
Yeah.
But so the whole like, is she like the cuckoo thing like doesn't really work unless you, the viewer, are also unsure.
Yeah.
But
unless
it's like,
she's an unreliable.
but it's very clear from like the filmmaking that it's like, no, this really happened to her. Nothing it just seems like everyone's an asshole.
Yeah.
Not that she's crazy, you know? So I don't think that, like, I think maybe it would have been interesting if they had leaned more into that. But I mean, you would have had to taken that time from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Maybe the like 20-minute like shootout that they have at the end of the movie could have been snipped to maybe try to convince
that
us
1v1 COD fight. Yeah.
But so that's my one gripe is the cuckoo thing doesn't, the double entendre of the name doesn't work when like nothing in the movie even remotely convinces me that like our character isn't really experiencing these things.
Yeah.
You know, so like it would have been cute, but that doesn't really pan out. After that, it's just this big long like spiral of investigating the sounds that she's hearing. She meets up with Gretchen meets up with this guy who claims he's a detective. I forget the character's name. It was,
again, this guy should have just been named
Henry.
Constable Chuckles.
I've
never seen a character
he has such a face, dude. His facial expressions are crazy in this movie,
and his laugh is amazing. He has this like hysterical laugh later on in the movie that is just funny. So good.
Yeah, Jean Bluthart.
He kind of gives me James from Infinity Pool vibes. He's kind of got that Euro look.
He's post Lost His Mind Jamesy. He's really funny. But yeah, he meets up with Gretchen and is like, hey, I like weird stuff's happening here. Like, I want to talk to you. And then he eventually explains to her that like his wife. Is this when we learn about his wife?
No, we learn about that later because after this initial hospital visit, she finds this opportunity where Ed's like, "Hey, I'm checking out. I'm gonna be, checking out of the hotel tonight or this morning." And she's like, "Okay, maybe I go with you." They have this little makeout scene. And she's like, all right, just give me a little bit of time to get my shit together, and then I will be right with you. You can take me away to Paris.
Right, because Gretchen's fed up after the way her dad treated her. She's like, that's it, I'm out. I'm just going to steal from the hotel and book it.
Yeah, so then we get this fun little car ride of her and Ed are smoking a joint, and they're cruising down the countryside at night.
But then that sound starts, and then we get a fun... getting high time loop so like they get caught in this loop again, and then right at like the last we're in a car, right? So it's like a horror movie thing, right? We're in a car
we're gonna hit something.
We're gonna hit something. We're gonna swerve.
We're gonna crash.
If you're in a horror movie, odds are if you're in a car at night, odds are something is gonna be in the road that you're gonna swerve out of the way of and crash into the woods. That's just like horror 101.
Yeah.
Don't drive at night. Something's gonna scare you off the road.
Don't do anything at night, really. Sleep.
Generally.
Just sleep.
That's why we need to get more daytime horror movies. We need to make the day scary again.
Make the day scary again. 2025.
Yeah. So inevitably they do see something in the middle of the road. It is that lady again.
It is the hooded woman.
And they crash. They flip the car. We wake up with Gretchen upside down. She's bleeding all over the place. Ed is next to her, and it's crazy. So Ed survives this movie, which I didn't think was going to happen.
No.
I thought Ed was dead here because as Hunter goes to like look at her, the creature, this lady that's been stalking her, like shows up outside of the car and like bends down, and she's all like, we're doing the horror movie like snip snappy like quick movement thing, herky jerky, and she grabs Ed and rips her out of the car, and you see her like toss Ed's body like 30 feet away. Like the body goes out of frame and then down back into frame.
I couldn't believe it. It's so funny. There's this trend right now on Twitter where everyone is saying like, can we bring back ragdoll bits? Like the ragdoll gag of like somebody falls and it's just like this impossibly not human ragdoll like extra, and then when they land it cuts back to being a person. It just made me laugh so hard because I was like, oh, I wish I could just post this clip because it is like exactly what everyone's talking about.
I was like, there's no, all right, so Ed's dead.
Yeah,
because I was like, there's no way. But then we see her in the hospital bed later, and I'm like, oh, she looks way better than she would if that actually happened to her.
Yeah,
because she seriously goes up out of camera frame, then back down like 30 feet away.
She gets tossed like a fucking Nerf whistler. It's like
it's wild, dude.
Into the distance.
And then we get a spooky like the lady bends down and gets in the car and does a jump scare scream, and then we wake up and we're in the hospital. Gretchen's all fucked up. She's got her arm in one of those like robo casts, that like, I don't know. What is the purpose of those?
It's a hinged cast. It's so that eventually as she starts to heal, she can take parts of it off. So like eventually as her arm heals up, she could take the sling off. So that way it's not like bound in that 90-degree position. And she can kind of start to get some movement back. It's like a progressively less cast situation.
Oh, interesting. Well, it looks cool.
It's cool because it has this little handle so that your hand can like hold something. Because a lot of the times in like old timey like cast situations, they would just leave your hand like bound up,
and then you'd have like
a claw when you take it out. Yeah.
Or you'd end up like the rookie of the year, and you could pitch like
you just pitch a million miles an hour. Yeah. Now coming up to the pitcher's mound, Gretchen.
All right, so and we do find out that Gretchen does find out while she's in the hospital that Ed is alive, but we don't talk about Ed until the end of the movie.
But this is where the cop shows up to tell us about his wife.
Yes, he tells us. Right, that like he was staying at the hotel with his wife, and he like woke up and she was like choking on her own vomit.
Yes,
and he suspects there was like some sort of foul play. He just can't explain it.
Yes,
so he was investigating the hotel to the point where the cops were like, "You're crazy and unhinged, dude. We have to fire you."
Yeah. Except
Gretchen doesn't know. He doesn't tell that part. He just says, "I'm a detective."
Flashes.
But we do
badge.
find out that he had since been released because he was doing an unhinged investigation.
You can't investigate things that you're involved in as a cop,
and
and
you also can't investigate things that there's just no basis to investigate.
Yeah.
Usually, not on the taxpayer's dime.
No, usually frowned upon.
but because Gretchen believes him, right? So she's like, "Well, I'm going to help you." So they set up like a stakeout in one of the cabins that overlooks the suspicious one,
the honeymoon suite.
The honeymoon suite.
The love nest is what they call it.
Yeah, the love nest, right? The nest. Why do they know. Do they? I'm forgetting if they said specifically why they know something is
because the girl
there.
who was throwing up the night before was staying there with her,
and then his
boyfriend.
wife and him were staying there.
Yeah, so they think there's something going on with that specific unit on the property.
Right. So they do the stakeout. There's like a funny bit where Gretchen is like, I thought stakeouts would be like fun. I didn't know they'd be so boring. And then next time we cut to her, she's like fucking dead asleep.
Fully asleep. I gotta say this is probably my favorite scene of the movie. I think the interior set of this
the love nest is great.
It's gorgeous. The color is so good on this. Like,
it's a gross place.
Film.
I would not want to stay there, but
I wouldn't want to stay there. But the shots are so good.
The walls are all like 70s pink. You know?
It's got this crazy floral
wood
wallpaper
and
and
wallpaper. Yeah, it's a great looking set. Anytime we get to be in the resort, like where we're in the cabins and in the woods and stuff, the movie looks really, really good.
Yeah, but we have Beatrix is here. She's kind of set up a come find me and fuck me situation for her cop boyfriend.
Yeah, this is like the coworker. Of Gretchen's.
So the cop shows up and he's essentially freaking out because he knows what's happening. He's like, oh, fuck, we can't be here. We can't be here at all. Like, we can't stay here. We have to close up the windows. We got to get the fuck out of here. It's, close to midnight or whatever the fucking bad time is.
Yeah,
for
the naughty time.
Yeah, for the monster to show up. And she gets, like, pissed off and she's like, all right, well, let me dry my hair real quick and then we'll leave if you want to leave so bad. So she's sitting on the bed with this really cool fucking blow dryer device that I definitely want to get.
The big like she has the attachment on it that like opens it up, so it's like a big wide like dome.
Yeah, it's fucking cool. But that's when you hear the noise and the cop boyfriend, whose name I think is Eric.
It is Eric, yeah, because I remembered I was like, oh, we got an Eric.
Yep, but Eric starts like going into his time loop and
the repetition
starts
thing.
freaking out, and we see the monster like enters in, and then it cuts to Trixie's like POV where she's sitting on the bed looking down the hall, and it's this very, very slow creep out of the hooded woman. And she's like screaming, her mouth's open. It's freaky.
She's doing the wide jaw, the long jaw,
yeah.
The long jaw.
And then
effect.
all of a sudden, it jumps after one of the loops finished, and she's like 10 feet closer, and she's in full view. She's fucking terrifying.
She's really, really scary. She's got the long jaw, the red eyes. She's in her full getup. And she does her screech, and then Trixie screams, and then we cut to
the detective is so funny in this scene.
He is really
he grabs this throw pillow, and he's immediately like unstuffing the throw pillow, and he's like running around the love suite, the love nest, and he's like looking into the window. He can see the monster, and it's like thrown up this goop into its hand, and it's like reaching for like the knees of like Trixie, who's like laid out on the bed.
No, it is. See, that's the thing. It doesn't. It didn't throw up the goop. That's its eggs. It grabbed its goop from its vagina.
Oh, I thought it throws up the goop and puts it in.
She was clearly, every time we see her in this movie do it, she's reaching out. She's just finished clearly reaching out from under herself.
Her egg clutch.
Yeah, and she's gonna fucking. She's getting ready to take. She takes her eggs out and she's gonna fucking stick them up into Trixie's puka. It is.
But there's this
gross.
shot. There's this shot where he's looking into the window, sees what's about to happen, and then runs around the outside of the house. And it's this very dark scene, but you just see this huge trail of feathers as he's ripping them out
funny.
Running around the house.
And then he runs into the house and he's like, I gotcha. And he opens fire, and the pillowcase that's wrapped in this gun that I guess was what's supposed to silence it. Like,
it's supposed to dampen the sound.
But either way, that doesn't seem nearly worth the effort. But then the second he shoots, the whole pillow like lights up in flames, and he's like, and he doesn't even get phased. He's running through the woods, gun in hand, in pillow, on fire, just like shooting through the woods. Meanwhile, Hunter Schafer's character, it also showed up and distracted the thing for a little bit. I actually think like caused the guy to miss the shots, and it gets away. But man, the pillowcase thing was so funny. I was laughing so hard.
Just that one shot of Trixie on the bed, like blow drying her hair, and she starts screaming.
Yep.
That specific still shot is gonna be like seared into my brain. It was
really good.
It's so gorgeous.
For me, it's the goop, the goop, goop.
Yeah, as it would.
So I guess we can skip to, because there's a lot of like slow burn, just more like Gretchen's parents being shitty and like nobody believing her, and more of more of like fucking more of Herr Koenig, Dan Stevens just clearly being evil. Eventually Gretchen decides like, she's leaving for good, and she's confronted by Herr Koenig in her house while her parents are off taking care of their favorite kid. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I think it is about time you leave. I'll drive you to the train station. We'll just stop off at my house and we'll get some money first, and then we'll go." And immediately you're like, "No, why would you? Okay, I guess the movie.
Why would you go with him?
Yeah, I guess the movie needs to climax, right? So we have to go follow the clear bad guy." And yes, obviously he turns on her. He locks her into this like bedroom that
gives her this cool cuckoo speech.
Yeah, he talks about, oh, like, hey, do you know about the cuckoo? It's the common.
Nasty
he
bird.
goes, this is the common cuckoo, but its behavior is anything but common. And it's like, yes, okay, finally the movie's gonna do it. Me and Eric both know what the cuckoo bird does, but we knew that the movie was going to not take any chances, assuming that people know that. So for anybody here listening who doesn't know, so the cuckoo bird is a species of bird that lays its eggs in other birds' nests and then leaves and waits for their baby to hatch with the rest of the nest. And then the other parent birds come and feed it, and it grows stronger. And while it's doing that, it kicks the other birds out of the nest and supplants. And then meanwhile, the new birds are still just feeding it as if it was their own.
Yes.
And so the other actual children of these birds get neglected and die and pushed out of the nest.
Which is a direct, comparison metaphor to the second family situation that's going on. That's how she feels about the new kid.
Alma. Yeah. It's like a clear metaphor, right? Like Alma's this new daughter,
this baby that's been supplanted into her family,
and this
life.
old daughter's kicked out and neglected and ignored and left to starve and die off, right? Mm-hmm. It's not very subtle. It's purposefully like obtuse for a reason.
But this is what I was saying earlier. Like, I feel like if I like what they're doing. I'm not opposed to this, creative metaphor in any way. I just wish that, it wasn't, for those of us who do know how this bird works, coming into it, I wish they would have named it anything else so that this part would be a little bit more impactful. But that's just a case-to-case basis. If you're not
for me, it didn't really bother me all that much. I understand we got to be a little obvious sometimes.
It doesn't detract from the story, I think. No. I think it would just make the reveal for me a little stronger.
Yeah, and the reveal being that once Herr Koenig gets Gretchen all captured, they let in the girl from the cold open of the movie.
The
adolescent is what they refer to her as, and so this girl is she's the same kind of creature that the hooded woman is. Mm-hmm. The way he describes it is they're like an offshoot. They even call them there's a scientist later in the movie that calls them homo cuckoo.
Kookaburras or something crazy.
It's so they're an offshoot of, instead of Homo sapien, they're like Homo erectus evolved, in a different direction.
It's just a different branch of the tree we're attached to.
Exactly. But they're essentially the cuckoo bird equivalent. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they go around and they hypnotize people with their gross, scary call, and then they reach into their goopy vaginas,
Their egg clutch.
and pull out glop and shove it up the woman. And then the man, the people forget they've been like mesmerized. And then because that's why they have these honeymoon suites, because they're like, oh, these people are definitely
They're gonna
fucking.
fuck. Yeah.
So the idea is the Cuckoo people come in, put the eggs in the woman. Then the guy, once everybody's forgotten everything, fertilizes the egg. And then later in life, once the family has raised these children who end up being mute,
Yeah.
because they can't speak, because they can only do cuckoo noises.
Yeah.
They come in. The mom will come back and kill the people and claim the child.
How they explain it is that once the offspring is then reintroduced proximity wise to the parent,
that's when their nature
kind of like activates them Splinter Cell style.
Yeah, the sleeper agents,
sleeper style,
cuckoo agents. So we're dealing. It's straight up creature feature here.
Yeah,
the creatures are not like crazy, monsters or anything. They're just essentially people.
And what I like, it's a very science-based creature feature. It's a very like sci-fi.
Yeah,
horror.
I actually really like the idea of a movie taking the idea of like, of humans evolving in different trees, but they're like almost the same, but we're a little different, and that's what kind of makes it scary. There's the whole thing. There's like a whole idea, which I think has been kind of like disproven, but like I still think it's creepy. The idea of like the reason why like the uncanny valley exists for us as people is it's because it was to protect us from things that look like humans but are something about them isn't. So they're like there's this other thing that are like we're almost there. And in theory, the theory is that like, well, it's because at some point humans did exist with things that were like almost Homo sapien, but were offshoots or like a devolved like one generation,
and like
step
part of our
something.
lizard brain is picking up on the like, wait a minute, that's not like 100% human. What's wrong with that?
Exactly.
Thing?
And I've always thought that idea was like such like a haunting thing that like I like that this movie played with that. So like that really worked for me. I thought it was super creepy.
Yeah, I love that.
So eventually
it's like a primordial fear.
It is, yeah. It's exactly
really cool.
It plays on that kind of stuff, which I always think will always work just because of the nature of it, It'll always be scary to people, so I think that's fun. So Gretchen gets confronted with this adolescent, and right as she's about to be, I don't know, killed by Herr Koenig, because he's got waving guns around the second half of this movie like it's nobody's business, dude. He's got enough like heavy arms to like we could get World War III going just from his house. It's crazy. But at like the last moment, like the detective, was it Henry? Henry shows back up and like shoots out the place, kills all of Koenig's guards, shoots Koenig. You think he's dead, but he's not. Spoiler. But he gets taken out. Henry also kills the adolescent Cuckoo human, and then him and Hunter get out. And they have to go to the hospital because that's where her sister is.
Yes, they come upon the realization that like, oh, wait a minute, how old's your sister? When were your parents here last? Oh, holy shit, your sister is definitely a fucking cuckoo monster.
Yeah, which is like not a surprise even like a little bit. The second they were like, I mean, we know she's mute right away, and like the second somebody was like, oh, they just they're these creatures just do the cuckoo song. I'm like, oh, well, okay, clearly.
Okay, that'll be it.
Yeah, that'll be it. So they get to the hospital, and that's the climax of this movie, which I think is unfortunate. All takes place within the hospital that we've been in a couple of times over the course of the film, but it's just like so sterile and boring.
Yeah,
it really feels like these things live in these woods and these mountains, and it's all so pretty. And to end the movie in this really drab, like dreary place with like a dull gunfight.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more of its like natural habitat. Like, let me see what what's gross its nest looks like. Yeah. But I mean, I guess it doesn't have its own.
It might not. We don't know. But I would like to know more.
It supplants its young in other people.
Here's the thing. So we get to the hospital, right, to rescue the sister. But we're stopped from doing that because Herr Koenig shows back up with this insane machine gun that he blows away the doctors who were in on it with him, right? They were doing research. They're going to reintroduce Alma to the mother being the hooded woman who's been following our character the whole movie. And they're supposed to do this reintroduction thing because the whole plot is that, like, Herr Koenig is like, oh, I'm a preservationist. Like, I found this species and I want to make sure it thrives and becomes more powerful with each breeding cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but for why though?
Powerfully German eugenics.
Exactly. I'm like, this is like just straight up Nazi like stuff, like experiments. Because like there's no, other than just evil scientists, there's no motivation like for this guy. He's just like, I want to see this creature breed. Like there's nothing other than just pure evil science.
That's fine.
Which is fine for me. And it's totally works for Dan Stevens' portrayal of this character because he's just a cackling madman the whole movie, not even hiding it. So you're like, sure, of course. I don't even need a rational explanation from you at the end of the day because whatever.
We talked about it a little bit right before recording. I would have preferred maybe like 3 to 15% more explanation of this thing, but really that's about it. I find like the mystery of it to be interesting enough, and I feel like we get to see enough of it that like I don't really care if you need to explain the motivations of him.
Yeah.
He's clearly inherited this role. This is a role that like has been.
You think it's from his Nazi grandfather started it?
I really do believe so, especially because they wrote the role initially for like an older guy.
Yeah, for Malkovich.
So like the idea that he's inherited this like
sense.
Position is very interesting to me.
Yeah, maybe we can get Malkovich in for the prequel.
That'd be sick. You know? I'd watch the prequel.
And so the climax of the movie it all culminates here, where there's this sort of standoff between Gretchen is trying to save Alma from Herr Koenig, who is just going scorched earth on it at this point. He's like, I'm found out. I'm going to kill everybody and everything.
Yep.
And then Henry, who was originally on Gretchen's side, Gretchen ends up, he turns on her because he's like, we have to kill this creature because it's one of the creatures that killed my wife, so they all have to die.
Yeah.
And Gretchen's like, no, but she's my sister. And he's like, it's not your sister. And this we're like, oh, she used to say that, but now she's grown on.
Yeah.
And we've grown.
Progress.
Character development. And so Gretchen ends up having to like stab him a bunch of times because she's like flipping around the switchblade the whole movie. And
it's very cute.
So she finally gets to use it, and so now it's like this four-way like standoff between like who gets Alma, or it's like, so there's Alma, there's the mother, there's Herr Koenig, there's Henry, there's Gretchen, and we're all trying to get this little girl for different reasons. Eventually, the Henry and Herr Koenig just spend the whole tail end of this movie blasting this hospital up, shooting at each other. They're trying, and I could have used a lot less gunplay. I don't. Maybe it's different because there's Germany. It's like a European movie, so maybe they view gun violence in a different light in terms of horror. For me, guns, real life, very scary. In movies, not scary at all. I could not be less intimidated by like a guy in a movie with like a shotgun. You take Herr Koenig, you give him a scary knife, suddenly he's much more threatening.
Yeah. I think it's also it gives you the opportunity for that, like, can we still call it a Mexican standoff? A Mexican standoff situation where like
we will for now.
Where Gretchen is like in between, literally in between the two of them, and they both have guns trained on them for different reasons.
I know. It just, for me, I get taken out of the horror because then it becomes, if there's a gun, suddenly it's an action movie.
Yeah, true.
You know, that's me though. I other people might not feel the same way about it, and I agree. You know,
now on the flip side, we get a really cool final confrontation between Gretchen and the hooded woman.
The highlight of the horror part of this movie is with Gretchen. We get a kind of a Jurassic Park kitchen scene with the raptors. You know, we get kind of that. So Gretchen's got to wear. She finds out she can wear headphones to not
block
hear
out the call.
Block out the call. Which she connects from earlier in the movie when she couldn't hear it with the headphones on. So she's wearing these headphones. She's skulking around with the knife, and they're in like this It's like a little office with like it's like not a library, but like it's a records room, right?
Yeah, it's like a hospital records room. It's got tons of paperwork all over the place. It's
all
like
these
shelves
and bookshelves and stuff. And so we get this cool little like cat and mouse chase scene in between, again, very Jurassic Park cafeteria scene. And then we do get the final like standoff. Eventually Gretchen does, right as she's about to get like, she's getting like her eardrums fucking hyper molested by this cuckoo call, but she manages to like get this switchblade right into the mom's throat, and she's got the long jaw like going right above her face, and just blood sprays everywhere. It's good. The final confrontation with the monster is really cool.
I will say blood looks good in this movie.
Good blood.
There's a couple shots of the blood where I was like, that blood is a little too tacky, and like, because as blood dries on your skin, it becomes pretty instantly very thin and flaky and like cracks. Some of the blood was a little bit too makeup, but on the whole, I'm gonna say A- blood.
Blood was good. And then so we defeat the mother, and then that's when we get there's like a big standoff between the two guys. Gretchen comes in, she sneaks her way through, she gets to Alma, right? And then in order to get back out, she has to walk through the middle of this gunfight, and that's where we get the standoff, like you said. So like Gretchen aims her back at Henry, who like she trusts that doesn't want to hurt her, and she aims Alma's back at Koenig because he's not going to hurt the creatures that he's obsessed with.
Yeah,
and she just kind of slowly like beep 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 like scoots herself out. And right as the shit's about to hit the fan, Alma uses her bird powers to freeze them so that they can get away fast enough. And then the movie just ends with them blast. The two guys just kill each other. And it's like, okay, good. Glad we're done with them. And then we get out of the hospital. And who's there but good old Ed that we totally forgot about and really probably should have been dead. And she's like, y'all want to go to Paris?
She's so funny. She's like still like in her hospital gown. She's like clearly like woken up alone in the hospital. Like, all right, I guess I'm going to get out of here.
It's so funny. I like had completely forgotten about her character with all the action that was going on. But yeah, and it's like, oh, fuck my dad and my stepmom. I'm taking their daughter. We're all gonna run away to Paris.
Yeah,
and then they cruise off into the sunrise, and like that, and that's it for them. That's it for the tale of Cuckoo.
It was I was really pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect the things I like about this movie to be like the standout things. I really expected to not be particularly in love with the monster, but I found it to be extremely compelling and interesting.
It was simple but effective.
Yeah. Here's the thing: if you tell me like, oh, what's the big monster in your movie? It's a long jaw woman in a coat. I'd be like, well, that's fucking super boring and stereotypical. And even in the way that they pull off like her jump scares, where she's like sneaking out of the side of that hallway, and then there's a loop that occurs and she's bang right in front of you at the end of that loop. In any other movie, it's like, oh yeah, well, she just scooted out there real fast, but like at least there's like a narrative reason for the jump scare to occur, and that I love that.
Totally. And just the story explanation for the character too, like what these creatures are and why they exist, I think is very effective. They don't go, I would have preferred, like you, a little more information. In fact, I could have done with a little bit more of the monsters and less of like Herr Koenig and his like gun dispensary that he has.
Yeah.
But like it's ultimately it's fine. I could have used a little bit more, but information we do have is extremely effective.
And they leave us with enough questions. Like, they, in an interview, were talking about how, like, hey, behind the scenes, did you guys really flesh out the mythology and, like, the, like, backstory to these creatures and everything about them, and, like, why Herr Koenig is, like, intentionally dressing them up, and he's putting, like,
he's putting, like,
wigs on them.
He's putting, like, wigs on them and stuff, too.
Which I find to be disturbing and creepy, but I'm kind of glad that they don't give us any explanation for that, because it just makes him freakier. It's like, what the fuck were you doing on the side with these things?
Yeah, I forgot that detail, that they're, like, all kind of like bald and gross.
Yeah.
Or at least the mother was.
Yeah.
And then she was wearing a wig.
But even when he's interacting with the adolescent one before it gets killed, he's like trying to put a blonde wig on.
He does, yeah. He puts a different wig, even though she has long hair. I don't know if it's a wig also or what, but I don't know. It's weird. The creatures are creepy. Herr Koenig is creepy because Dan Stevens is a little freak.
He's so good. I would love to see him try and pull off a fucking fraction of the freak that he does without glasses.
It's true.
The past couple roles, it's like I said.
That's because if you take the glasses off, then we'll have to trust him because he's so beautiful.
After this string of like him being like a third act like twist character, I would love to see him either in like a leading role or at least a supporting role where he is not the twist. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, that'd be cool too. But yeah, so that was Cuckoo. You know, a big recommend from me, even more than earlier in the episode. After talking about it more, I really liked it. I think we're super fresh on it. We just saw it today. But I think this one's going to settle real nice. I think I'm going to be looking back on this one fondly.
Yeah, I think it'll come up in our end of the year conversation.
I would expect it to. It was just whimsical enough for me to hit that sweet spot for me. It'll probably end up in the top 10, if not the top 5.
It's just so pretty. We've had such good horror movies this year with such genuine cinematic beauty. Just
it's
like on
really
landscapes
true. It's really
alone.
true.
It's just so
We've had some real good lookers. Such good sets all over. Just everything. Real good stuff. The categories this year for the end of the year stuff are going to be interesting to do.
The herky jerky walk category is going to be a tough competition. I mean, there are some clear front runners, but it's going to be an interesting one at the end.
Yeah.
What do we got for next week?
I think that one's going to be a surprise for everybody. You'll have to wait and see for that one, y'all. It's going to be the cap off, I think, of the hot wet summer. So final episode, I think we're just going to do something fun, but you'll have to wait and see what it is.
That's exciting. A mystery.
I know. And as far as anything else, nothing too big news wise from the Devil's Cut. Just normal shit. We're getting ready for. We got to gear up for Halloween season.
I know. We got to start putting some fucking pen to paper on what we're going to be doing. But
I know. But we're still doing our normal Twitch streams Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're about ready to wrap up on some of our hot wet summer games too, and then we're going to get back into. There's a lot of horror games that we've been holding out on because they didn't fit the theme.
We got to get back to Crow Country.
I know. I really want to play that.
That game has been haunting my mind since we started it.
I really want to play that. But yeah, so we're going to get back into more like straight horror games, as well as some other stuff. We got some cool games coming up.
Schedule persists for Twitch, but as you can tell, we did move our posting day to Friday for our podcast. Keep looking for us towards the weekend for that. We moved it from Tuesdays to Fridays just to give ourselves a little bit extra edit time and
so we can add some extra flair,
spice it up for you guys.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't have anything else to add. I think that's it. I'm good for this week.
No, we'll be signing off.
All right. Yeah. Until next time, everybody, creep it real.